Hi, hello, and welcome along to this UCAS International podcast with me, Robbie James. And in today's episode, we are talking all things the pre-application process. So today, we're talking about the research element of looking to study in the UK. So what kind of things should you be researching in terms of courses, in terms of how the course will actually work, and also locations as well. Things like looking around the city. Is it a campus university? How do those various factors play into your decision making? And we are going to do it with my two wonderful guests who it's nice to see today. We've got Sharon Wong, an ex-University of Wolverhampton student, of course now a graduate, and also Joy Elliott-Bowman as well, Director of Policy and Development for the IHE, otherwise known as the Independent Higher Education. That's quite a fancy title, Joy. I like that. Is the job as fancy as it sounds?
It is. I picked it myself.
Did you? Did you really?
Mm-hmm.
Very good. What does it mean, Director of Policy and Development?
It means that I do all things, policy. I talk about the different ways that government might change the rules, the way that regulators change the rules.
Okay.
I talk about rules. I work with rules a lot.
Fine.
A lot.
Okay.
And the development side is I get to work with universities and colleges and schools on what they want to offer, what their curriculum looks like, new campuses, things like that.
Okay, good stuff. I feel like you look at a lot of Word documents.
I
Good.
do. Yeah,
I
a
can
lot.
imagine.
Yeah.
And Sharon, nice to have you on. So you recently graduated, right, from University of Wolverhampton. Doing what? And also you moved to the UK from where?
So I graduated last year and I studied business management. I moved from Hong Kong to here, but before I moved here, I actually already studied in City University of Hong Kong for 2 years. And I moved here and I finished my last year in University of Wolverhampton.
And how did you find it in general? Your experience of moving over to the UK, studying here. What we giving it out of 10?
I think 8.
Solid. We'll take that.
Yeah, 8 because there are many difficulties studying abroad and like researching schools. But at the same time, you got many new exposure in UK. They're very different from Hong Kong.
Cool. Okay, good stuff. Well, we're going to, like I say, talk about the pre-application process. So if you want to find out more about actually doing the applications themselves, you can do in other podcasts in this series. But let's go to the start then of thinking that you may want to study in the UK. Joy, when should you start researching universities and courses?
Well, I would say as early as possible, and in particular, before you start that final stage of your schooling. Because everybody in every country has that stage where you start to choose courses, pick modules or subjects. So you really need to know, what do they want on the other end of that? Is it certain types of courses like sciences versus social sciences? Is it certain specific ideas? So if you know, I kind of want to study potentially in psychology. Do I need to take psychology at the end of my schooling? Do I need to make sure that's in my curriculum? So you really should start as early as you can, knowing what you might need so that you don't then have to back up and do extra subjects once you've finally picked where you want to go.
I see. And is that something you did, Sharon? How were you from sort of that preparedness point of view? When did you start thinking about it?
So if it's about the University of Wolverhampton, so I actually started to apply different school, not because what subject I want to study, is because which university is near to my home. So I live in Birmingham, so I search for like University of like Birmingham or like other nearby universities that suit my situation.
Yeah.
So I search for like what university can accept a last year entry, which most of them cannot. And then I finally find like University of Wolverhampton, and I realized like, oh, they accept that. So that's how I do my research, because there's not much information about that online. So you have to really get into touch with people in the university.
So it was a little bit of a mix between the academic side for you and also like the geography. Interesting that you were kind of like having to mix those two in, the location and the academic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is that something? What generally do you see most of, Joy? Do you see people looking for somewhere in the right location, somewhere with the right course or the right structure? What is the sort of most common sort of patterns people look for?
Well, I mean, what's great about the UK is you could study pretty much anything anywhere. So it's okay if you want to say, I want to live in a city,
Yeah.
and therefore I'll only look at universities or colleges in cities. And it's okay to say, I'd like to live close to London, and then use that geography, because you can usually find the subject of the course that you want to study within those geographies. So it's okay to start on either end. And I think it's split. We see a lot of students who are thinking about jobs or family, and they're going, this is where those sorts of things are. So I want to look around it. But equally, we see lots of people going, I want the best course in this subject, which means you might need to sacrifice geography.
Yeah.
So it's about what your priorities are. But you can start at either end, because I think you could find something regardless of which angle you come at it.
Well, should we maybe sort of touch on both then? So if you're going to look for the academic side, so things like modules, how they work, and also, I guess, how the courses work. So is it coursework? Is it exams? Is it practical, hands-on? Where do you go to look for that, Sharon? And how did you go about sort of researching that?
I look on the website like QS ranking if it's for universities ranking. So because Chinese international student, they really care about rankings.
So they're like the league tables.
Yes,
Okay.
there are, and then they choose like the top QS ranking universities. And also, I think more and more important is about the job outcome of
Yeah.
that universities. So I think those are really important.
It's interesting you mentioned the league tables. I never quite know. I don't know, maybe I'm just being skeptical, but I never quite know how they are built and put together and what they're on. Joy, can you maybe shed a bit more light on that?
Yeah. What's great about the league tables, and I know that I don't often say that, but what's good about the league tables is that if you do look behind them, you can find that each one is built on a different set of things. And again, you can decide what do you care about. So some league tables, particularly the QS or the big ones, are actually based on research output from the university or the college. So not on student experience or how students got on with jobs, but how much research has that institution produced. And if you care about that, then that's great. That's a good table to use. But other ranking systems, and if you look into them, they'll tell you about what students thought of the city. They'll tell you what students thought of the campus, of the courses. Inside that information sometimes are actually the data on those jobs. You can find out, did students get a job afterwards? What kind of salary were they making? Or what kind of skill level was that job? Was it a professional job? Was it a self-employed? That data is in there if you look hard enough, but you really have to look. You need to know, what is this league table actually measuring? What points are assigned to what? And I never go with the headline figure. I always take that step behind, because if you look at them, they'll often rank them by those individual factors. And you can say, to me, it's important to get a job. What's the ranking on jobs? What's that data say to me? To me, it's actually the experience of campus and what it feels like to be a student. What's their ranking there, or a combination of those? So never look at the headline figure. Always take that step behind and go, what do I care about? Is it in this table? If not, find a different one. There's loads of them out there.
Also, in terms of the courses, Sharon, I'm guessing that the UK has lots of universities doing similar courses, but how those courses actually run could be very different. Was that something when you were researching you came across?
Yes, so I usually look at like what course, like specific course they are providing, and also like what's the format they're providing, and also how often do they have classes.
Right.
Yeah, because I am like always like working part-time during my studies, so I really want to balance my work and study. So I really want a university that can offer like not that often classes,
Mhm.
but at the same
So
time
you
I
kind of needed to see like a schedule, like a
yes.
dummy schedule. Yeah.
Yes, so I will know like can I handle my time with my work and both my studies.
And is that similar in terms of like coursework and exams and how those courses are made up? Because I know like some people prefer practical stuff. Did you have a preference?
Yeah, I do prefer coursework.
Right.
I don't prefer exams, and I found that University of Wolverhampton, my course, they are all like coursework.
Right.
Yeah.
And how should people go about finding out more about that, Joy? How's that best? Are dummy schedules something that are normally available?
In the UK, it's rare to have a dummy schedule, but what you can find...
I think I've made up that term, by the way. Dummy schedule. I don't know if that's an actual thing. Don't quote me on that. But there is now.
Yeah, so in the prospectus, it'll usually tell you how many contact hours. So
Right.
that's what you can find out. How many hours am I expected to spend in the presence of other people on a campus in some way? You can also, though, find out within that, what's the things like studio or lab time? Do you really like to get hands-on? Then you can find that out. how much time can I or do I need to spend in those sort of spaces, particularly if you're taking a course that maybe is in the creative arts and you want to have access to that space, or in science and you want to have access to the laboratory. So that information should be in the prospectus. What you won't get is which days am I in and how long am I in on each day. Honestly, that is just usually determined in just like the months before, where the universities are scrambling to try and put this there and that there. So don't look for those. You won't get that. But what you usually can get is how many hours over the course of a year will I spend with other people in a space? How much independent study do I need to do? And you can usually work it out from there, that I've got this many hours to do coursework, this many hours in the classroom, and this many hours then to work if that's something that you need to do.
And away from the actual course element and how that is all structured, it's also, let's face it, it's important to know where you're going to be and what your surroundings are going to be like. I know, Sharon, for you, you were obviously in Birmingham, weren't you, before moving, but before moving to Wolverhampton. But how did you go about looking around, and how important was it for you? I know you mentioned that your family and friends were sort of in that area, but how important was it for you that you were in the right space?
Oh, I actually am living in Birmingham.
Oh, you're living in
Yeah,
Birmingham now?
yeah.
Okay, right, fine. So but before you moved to Wolverhampton, though?
I didn't move to
You
Wolverhampton.
didn't
I
move to
studied
Wolverhampton.
in.
You studied at Wolverhampton, you lived in Birmingham.
Yes.
Right, I'll get there in a second. You just got to give me a bit of time. I'm a bit slow with these things. Okay, but so when you were looking at where to study, how were you basically trying to find out, or how important was it to you that you were in the right sort of space, geographically?
I want the university to be close to my home,
Mm-hmm.
so that I don't really need to spend a lot of transportation fees, and also I don't want to move into accommodation or like student accommodation, because that's another expense. So I tend to be only searching for institution that is nearby my home and or is like commutable.
Were you too fussed about it being like a campus university or not?
Yes, I really want to go into a campus university, because that's what I can experience student life, because I can join like different societies, networking with different students.
Interesting. So for you, that was a better way of actually immersing yourself in the whole experience.
Yes, definitely.
Is that a common theme, Joy? People from international prefer that kind of life?
Yeah, I think there's lots of things actually that Sharon said that you'd want to pick up on as an international student. One is that accommodation question. Where do you want to live? Do they have lots of, halls of residence or purpose-built accommodation? If that's where you want to live, that's great. I find that there are some places where actually there's not very much non-purpose-built accommodation. Particularly, it can be a campus, but it can be a campus quite out of the way. So it's important to know, and not just think about, if you're in a 3-year course, not just think about that first year, but that second year when you're kind of done with halls and you want something else. Where could I live? What's the commute? Thinking about that transport and the local transport options. The other thing that's really interesting about campus universities always to think about is what type of campus. In the UK, we've got lots of different options. There is the campus kind of out of the way. There's the campus, but in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
There's even universities that are inside industry. Some of our members are inside a film studio. You can study film. Inside of an engineering a business, you can study engineering. So think about where it is. Think about what benefits that area gives you. Think about accommodation. Think about that student life.
Yeah.
Can I do lots of things on campus, or am I going to have to travel somewhere to pursue my hobbies and my interests?
But how do you go about that? Especially if you're not lucky enough to be able to come over to the UK and try them all, and do what a lot of UK students can do, is go to their open days. What are you then relying on? Things like virtual tours, or?
Well, I think COVID didn't bring us a lot of good things, but one of the things it did bring is lots of virtual tours. And so more and more places are doing these virtual tours. You can actually go on, you can pan around the different places. Check out the university site. Check out the student union site. If you're interested in those kind of extracurricular things, you want to know what clubs, societies, what opportunities you can have on that campus and where things are, the student union site will have that sort of information. So that's a really good one. Take a look at the galleries. There's lots of pictures and images. And then also look at, and I know this is a weird place to look, but there's reviews of institutions. I know Google's not the best place for it, but if you go to some of the other sites that are really based for students, what you can get is actually reviews from students about what is the space like.
Yeah.
Did I enjoy the campus? Was travel hard? Are the buses never running?
Yeah.
You know, you can get that from other students just like you. And there's quite a few sites out there. If you find the ones that do student reviews and you look through, you can actually click on, there's usually, you know, find out about the city, find out about the campus, find out about the accommodation, and you'll find all the reviews with those words in it. So I would absolutely go and look at student reviews as that sort of, all right, I've got them narrowed down. I want to know what's the difference between, you know, one university in one place and one in another. Go and look at those reviews, and then you can see what students thought of the actual space that you were going to study in.
That's interesting. So that might be the deciding factor, because there'll be loads of people who will be like, I just can't pick one. I've got choice A and I've got choice B, and I can't split them. So that could be a deciding factor. You go for the reviews.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the reviews will tell you the day-to-day life. And
Yeah.
so you can picture yourself there. You know, I've got up in the morning. Do I have a reliable bus? You know, if I want to travel, you know, I'm getting into my second year of an undergraduate. Can I have a place to stay? The reviews will tell you those kinds of things. So I'd always say, once you've narrowed it down, look at what real students thought.
And of course, UniBuddy is an option as well.
It is, and UniBuddy is a great one-stop shop. That's what I love most about UniBuddy. You can go on and you can find ambassadors from all the different universities and colleges and institutes that you might want to go to. And you can say, I'd like to talk to someone from these different places. Now, of course, they are paid by the university or college to kind of come and tell you things, as all students should be paid for their work. But they will give you their honest opinion. They're students. It's great. You get to talk student to student, but it's all in one place. You don't have to chase them around on different websites. One-stop shop for all your ambassador needs.
Good. It's like you just did the advert for them there.
know.
That was very
They
good.
should totally have paid me for that.
They-
Definitely,
I'm
yeah.
sure they will. You're nodding away there, Sharon. Would you agree? What was the sort of biggest challenge for you when you were looking at that aspect?
I think the biggest difficulty might be contacting the student ambassador to like ask them for reviews, because maybe sometimes it will take a bit of time for them to answer.
Right.
So for me, I actually, besides like contacting student ambassador, I actually connect people in LinkedIn who are studying in the university that I'm looking at. So I
Got
can
Joy's approval, that I can
Yeah.
tell.
So I can ask them like how it is really like in the universities and what societies they have and are they inclusive. Yeah, that's how I made my decision.
Yeah, and I suppose was it a case as well of talking to your peers and talking to people around you and your family as well, to just try and sort of understand it and piece it all together, because it's a lot to deal with, right?
Yeah, just get everyone's opinion and balance everyone's opinion and decide myself still in the end.
Would you go along with that as a good piece of advice, Joy?
Yeah, I think people who know you best.
Yes.
I love the LinkedIn idea. Again, you could connect with people who've had a similar output to you. You know, somebody who's studying on that course and go, for you, you're like me. What was it like? I think that's a good idea. And I also love the idea of the student ambassadors. Lots of places have them, and they're really good use. You can also ask, there's some general student ambassadors. So ones that could, you know, here in the UK and could go, from my experience, these places are like this. So there's lots of, again, websites and places that have very specific students whose job it is to tell you about what they were like. So if you can find people who are like you, who know you, or who could relate to you and ask them their experience, that's a good idea.
There's also a very useful tool. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called the UCAS Hub. I'm told. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's quite good, isn't
Yeah.
it? Supposedly, yeah. People nodding in the back. Yeah. Apparently, the UCAS Hub is a very helpful place. Can you attest to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the UCAS Hub has in one place lots of these different information. The other part of the UCAS Hub that I really like is it always will tell you where to find more. So if you kind of get on a thread, you know, if you see something in a review, it won't tell you where to find more. But in the UCAS Hub, you can start to journey down. You can go, I really want to know more about this particular area or this particular campus. What are the buildings like? It will tell you where to find more and give you those direct links. That saves so much time than you and Google having to try and figure it out together. The UCAS Hub has it in one place. Where can you kind of go after you've gotten that first level of information? You really know what you want to find out. UCAS can usually direct you.
God, it's good, that UCAS Hub. It really does do something, doesn't it? It's one of the top tier things ever. Anything to add there, Sharon? UCAS Hub, want to give it a testimony?
Yeah, I think in UCAS Hub, so you got all the university courses gathered in one website, so you don't need to like go to each individual university to search for the subject. You can just like if you're interested in business, you press into the UCAS hub and you can see like that subject and with different universities, you can compare them. And also you got like the student ambassador contact page there as well, so that's very convenient.
And I suppose another factor that is worth putting into the equation is the cost of living. Joy, different places potentially having different costs associated with them.
Yeah, I think cost of living is an important one, and you need to think about the different costs. Rent will be more expensive in one place than another. Transport might be different, so it costs more to travel depending on where you want to live. You also need to think about the cost of food. Some places, where I come from, food is really expensive. In the UK, I found it really cheap. Other people might find it the other way around. And then one of the ways to look and figure that out is to figure out where can I go to buy things and what kind of shops are around. In the UK, they have something called the High Street. Now, it is not called High Street, just in case anybody needs to know. You will not find High Street on a map, but it will be called something. It will be the main shopping street. And you can go onto there. You can see the different types of shop. You can get an idea of the cost of living. Clothes might be more expensive in one shop than the other. So have a good think about what you'll need. Where can you find it? How easy is it to get it? And then kind of plan out your budget. Is it worth living in one place because rent is cheaper, even though there's a bit of extra travel? I really want shopping. I really want theatres. I really want to have a spot where I can go to do these things. What does it cost in different cities? Think about what matters to you and do a little bit of measuring.
And we should say as well, if you are looking for High Street, it is the HIGH Street, like High Street, not the High Street. Okay, that's very important change to make. Sharon, how did you find that element, sort of looking at costs, and did you find things were different in different places?
Yes, absolutely. Like quite a big difference. But like in Hong Kong, so if you dine out, it will be much cheaper. But in UK, dining out might be more expensive. However, I think if you dine in and get things from supermarket is actually quite cheap. And especially I did a lot of research when moving here that like certain supermarket got like specific discounted time, and I just search it online and see what's the specific time they do the yellow labels, which is the discounted stickers.
Love a yellow label.
Yeah, so they are very helpful to international students if they're in budget, and as well as transportation. I think besides train, if you want a lower budget transportation, you can choose like coach or Flixbus if you want to travel to far places to explore UK when you're an international student.
Can you remember what the best discount was you got? Was there anything you came over and you bought something you're like, oh my God, this is so cheap?
I think is transportation. I remember I bought a Flixbus ticket to London from Birmingham. It's just £2 something. It's because they're on special promotion, and I found that really good to me because I save a lot of money. If I travel by train, it will be more expensive.
Just to round this sort of conversation off, what I'm getting from both of you is the importance of being prepared and trying to get on top of this stuff as early as you can. Sharon, is that something you would maybe tell students who are now thinking about studying in the UK, thinking about that research process? Just do it as early as you can?
Yes, I will say that because if you have more time to prepare, then you got more time to search for all the aspects like rankings, accommodation, or student environment, and different things or job outcomes. So for that university, so if you're in a rush, you might skip many aspects and you might miss out a lot when you make your decision.
And for you, Joy, what would your one piece of advice, if there are people listening to this, watching this right now, thinking, yeah, you know what, I may well start looking at my options?
If you look early, you figure out what matters to you, what you care about, and you might then discover actually how to research, because there's so much information. Sorting through it can be really hard. If you start early, you start to figure out it's almost like, those house shows where they're going, I didn't know what I wanted until we finally started to see some houses. So you have to do that. You've got to do that stage where you're wandering about, figure out what you care about. And then once you know, that helps you to then start making decisions. Otherwise, you'll end up going to an A-named university like I did, started at the top of the list, not getting any further.
Yeah, probably not ideal just to go off alphabet. But it will mean that Aberdeen do very well out of you. Right, good stuff. Lovely. What house shows are you watching, by the way? I didn't know that was a thing in house shows. Is that a thing?
Oh yeah, if you see the Christy and Phil, they go around, they take people around to and they come up with a list of all
This
the
is a
stuff they
UK
want.
reference for our international
This
students.
is for
They should
international
watch it.
students. Yeah, you can watch it.
Right.
The UK loves housing shows.
Sure.
We have none of these where I come from, and these are very popular here. But what it shows you is they come with a list of all the things that they want, and of course that house doesn't exist, so they have to see a few to figure out what they really care about.
And that is the moral of today's story. Good stuff. I've loved that. Thank you very much, Joy and Sharon. Lovely to have you both on the podcast. Did you enjoy it? Enjoy it both?
Yes, very good.
Good
Thank
stuff.
you.
We got your approval. That's good news. Don't forget, plenty more resources available via ucas.com/international. And a reminder, this episode, of course, was all about that research phase. If you want to know more about the application phase itself, you can do by hitting like and subscribe, and you will be able to get access to all of our wonderful podcasts wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube. We'll speak soon.